All right, so I think it's good time to start the today's topic, analytics. Okay, now every camera today uh, they have built-in analytics. Camera now has an analytic. The objective of camera having analytics is to make decision. The camera or objective of analytics itself is to make self decisions. Okay, this is my usual example. A camera is like eye. It's like a human being looking at a certain area. You have eyes on the area, right? This is what they say, right? Slang. You have eyes on this area. That means you have a camera there. So that means someone is looking at that specific location. Now, still the decision, if someone has intruded, there is an intrusion or incident, it depends on the operator. Now, you have eyes on the scene, but if there are 200 cameras, that means your life, I mean, the operator's decision making also is now still difficult because he has to look at 200 cameras and he has to make a decision. So if the camera itself has analytics, the camera can alert the operator saying, I found someone in the scene. Why don't you have a look? So it will create a notification, it will create a sound, it will create a pop-up. Just like your mobile phone, you have a pop-up. If you have a bank transaction, you have a notification. That means it takes your attention. Otherwise, you don't care, right? You feel everything is safe. Nobody has touched your bank account. Same way, camera, everything is safe. Unless something happen, it will give you a notification. So the chances of notification in the camera is dependent on the scene, if there is an activity in the scene. All right. Initially, it started with motion detection. If there is a motion, someone is in the property, it will create an alarm. And they used to schedule it when the offices are closed, why there is a motion, why there is a person, the operator gets an immediate alarm. All right. Then later on, it started expanding to different ways of analytics. One of them is appear and disappear or object left behind or object removal. There are different words for it. Roughly speaking, if you have marked in the scene, let's say I mark in the scene, this is a laptop, I put a box around it and I tell the camera, keep on watching. If the laptop is missing, send me an alarm. Otherwise, everything is okay. So this is called appear and disappear. If the object disappears, it will create an alarm. The name for the analytic can be different from vendor to vendor. Analytics are like patented technologies, so people don't really use the same name. Everyone will have different names for it, but most of the time it refers to the same concept, right? If someone is outsourcing the analytics, they will have the same name. They can use the same name. For us, we develop our own analytics, so we have our own R&D team. So our name can be slightly different. All right, appear. Appear means what if someone leaves a object and goes? Generally, tourist areas, areas where you know there are certain objects in the scene, maybe cash counter and this and that, or let's say airports. But what if someone leaves an unattended object, just left it there and went? Then you can get an alarm. That is called appear. So these kind of analytics are available today in the cameras. Line crossing, very commonly used is line crossing. Why do you need line crossing? Uh, see, the car is moving in the scene. It's okay, right? It's supposed to go in the streets. But if they go outside the track, then that's a problem. Same way, the car can be going outside your property, no issue. But if they enter your property, then there's an issue. You cannot tell the camera stop looking outside. Camera will look everywhere. So you can draw a rule, you can draw a line, and you can tell the camera as long as they are here, I don't care. But if they enter a certain location from right to left, if they enter in, or you can give many conditions, left to right or both direction, after a certain time, I need an alarm. So this is called virtual line, directional motion, and even you can give direction, right? Right to left, left to right. So I can draw a line on the road. If someone is coming from the opposite direction, wrong direction, then I can create an alarm. So all these are built-in functionalities now available within the cameras. Again, they may have a different name, but you just have to explore and find out whether it refers to the same thing. Tampering detection is very common as well. I think I try to set it up here. So tamper detection is if someone is blocking the camera view, and I have put a setting 10 seconds. If they block for at least 10 seconds, then it will create an alarm. Let me make it 5. Okay, now I will try to block the view. You will see a red color box. All right. So the camera has detected tamper and you can see the red color box. So this is tamper detection. It's a very serious alarm because someone is blocking the view. Okay. Similarly, we talked about line crossing. Line crossing is you draw a line and you say which direction they can cross. You can put a schedule, direction. Cameras, you can draw multiple lines. You can draw around your property. You can even um, perimeters. These are very powerful analytics. Virtual area. Virtual area is instead of a line, you can draw a box. This is called zone crossing, enter exit. Uh, yeah, we call it enter exit. Some may call it area intrusion, different names. Basically, it's a box. If someone enters the box, maybe it's a storeroom, a specific area in the storeroom. If someone enter, raise an alarm. If someone leave, someone takes the car outside at the night time, raise an alarm from the parking lot. There is a movement outside the zone from inside, then raise an alarm. All right. So these are different types of analytics. Then there are behavior analytics. Behavior is loitering. Loitering is a behavior. If right now there's a person sitting on the desk, that's okay. But if he is keeping on moving here, just walking around without a purpose, without an agenda, that means there is maybe he's meditating some threat. So that is called loitering. You can create an alarm based on that also. It's like a behavior. Um, then there is fog detection. If there is a lot of fog blocking the view, it will create an alarm. If the focus is out, it will create an alarm. If there's a motion detected, it will create an alarm. If there are cameras with the vibration sensors, gyro sensors, to understand if there is a vibration, sometimes po, it's not used in every project. Okay, um, someone trying to damage the pole, someone trying to damage a certain safe ATM area, and they're trying to damage the ATM. So it is creating an impact vibration. So it can detect and create an alarm. Audio detection is also there. If you can listen with the microphone connected to the camera, or some camera have built-in microphone, and there's a sudden spike in the sound, someone screaming, it will create an alarm saying, okay, there is a compared to the current level of sound, there is a sudden spike above this. You can put the ambient level at so and so. If it goes above this, it will create an alarm. This one is specific to our brand. We can detect what kind of sound, screaming, someone, gunshot, crashing glass, explosion. If there's an explosion, certain frequency, if it matches, it will create an alarm. All right, so what is the idea behind analytics? This is loitering. What is the idea behind analytics? Is the camera to help you make the decision faster, to catch your attention. All right. Whenever there is an alarm, you can have a PTZ camera. You know PTZ camera, right? It's your zooming in camera. Incident, you can go and capture the incident by zooming in. You can ask the PTZ camera to go there. Let's say someone entered a secure area. The PTZ will go there and start monitoring. Actually, there is a nice video. Uh, the idea for you is how all you can, or what are the options that you can use to secure your project, right? This is not a proprietary to us. There are different ways to achieve this in any CCTV brand. Some brands do it very efficiently. We have one of the most efficient methods of doing this. So you can look at these options. Handover. Let's let's take this one. Not fisheye. All right. So here I have a panoramic camera looking at a stadium and a PTZ camera looking somewhere. And if there is a motion detected in certain area of the stadium, my PTZ camera will go to that location. All right. So how I do this is I create zones, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, like that. You can create 8 zones. If any movement in that zone, PTZ will go to that particular zone. It's like preset, camera to camera command, right? We call it hand over the camera. All right. So these are the different levels of analytics available in cameras. Now, back then, people used to have analytics as a separate fees, or they would have we call it server-based analytics. 10 to 12 years back, people would pay licenses, buy separate server, process the image, do the analytics. But today, the cameras are powerful enough to do it on the edge, just like you used to check emails on your laptop before, but now you can check it on your mobile phone. It's on the edge, on the phone. Same way on the camera, right now, when I did all the camera settings, I did it on the camera. This is a camera XNV, this is a camera. So I did it on the camera. So the camera itself can make the decision and not depend on a separate analytics. It does not have to depend on uh, separate licenses. These are all built in the camera itself, right? So you buy the camera, it comes included. So this is called edge analytics, license-free analytics. Doesn't matter any VMS, any you can use, right? Okay. So here is another incident. Whenever you have cameras with analytics, they send some information called metadata. Metadata, where the motion happened. You know someone crossed the door line, that's okay. But where they crossed, in which area they crossed in the scene, they can cross here, person is crossing here, person is going through the gate, where they cross. This is called metadata. Data about data is metadata. So here is an incident. I'm trying to identify who entered through the gate. I click on the app setting, enter. I click on search. Automatically all the results come in. When I click on the result, I get the video. Who entered in the gate, right? How long does it take to do the search? Not really, right? Hardly 2 minutes, hardly a minute. Okay, if you were to do a normal camera search, you have to play back for 24 hours, check where they crossed, when they crossed, and write down all the data. But with the built-in analytics, you can save a lot of time. This is called efficiency with analytics and operator use. Okay, and cameras also have counting. It can count people, you can draw a line and count who came in. It also can do heat map, which area is more crowded. It can do uh, what do you call queue management if the queue is exceeding a lot of if it queue is exceeding a certain limit, you can get an alarm, you can get reports. So these business related, not just security. Cameras are also now capable of additional information. Okay. Analytics. Can we apply analytics in PTZ? Yeah, you can. Yes. So two questions. Can we activate all the analytics at the same time? You can activate all of this analytics at the same time, and it depends on the vendor. For us, we have our own chipset. Hardware has their own chipset. You can activate all the analytics, all the zones, 8 zones per analytic, all activate at the same time, no issue. Some brands, they will mention in the datasheet, you can activate 2 analytic, you can activate 3 at a time, like that. Depends on their chipset. So yeah, it depends on camera to camera, but uh, yeah, for us it's all at the same time. Ideally, it should be like that, but it also makes sense. You will not use every analytic in every location, right? But it's good to have that flexibility. Can we apply analytics in PTZ cameras? Yes, you can apply in PTZ cameras. PTZ cameras have an analytic called tracking. So I will take a video and explain. So here, let's say the PTZ camera found object person moving, it will continue to track that person. It's a PTZ for tracking. It can be indoor, it can be outdoor. Whoever it tracks first, it will keep tracking him, even if something else is moving in the scene. After 30 seconds, 1 minute, it will go back to its position. It's called home position. Okay, so it will stop after some time. Okay, all right. What do you mean by on the edge? Okay, on the edge. Edge is, we call it edge device. Okay, let me explain that. Just a second. CCTV edge device is cameras. Fire alarm system edge device is fire detector, smoke detector, not fire detector. Smoke, early warning, right? Smoke detector. So these are edge devices. Okay. In the if there is a fire, who's detecting there is a smoke? If you the smoke detector detects there is a smoke, and it will decide and send the alarm to the control panel. The control panel, what does it do? Does it check the smoke once again? No. It only receives the alarm and checks which zone and starts the annunciation or alarm. Same way, camera is the edge device. If you do analytics on the camera itself with the built-in analytics, it's called edge analytics on the edge, right? This is what I meant by edge. Okay, then metadata, just where there is motion. Yes, the thing with why metadata, or we call it forensic search, is let's say you're monitoring my training room. You probably don't know which area. Right now, I drew a line. Maybe you don't want to draw a line. Maybe everybody's allowed. I don't need any alarm, right? Okay, when you draw a line, what happens? If someone crosses the line, you will get immediate notification. Just like some transaction happened, you will get a notification. Camera will give you notification. But let's say you are not, you don't want notification. Let it be. Let people go, come in, everything is okay. But for some reason, something went missing in the training room. Someone took something from the training room. Then you want to do analysis, post analysis. In that case, what the camera does, camera will keep a full record of what's going on, where motion happened, where people crossed. It's uh, so that extra information is called metadata. So when you do a search in the VMS, you will select an area just like the video, just like the video. You will select an area and say, I just want to know who all came in this zone, who all entered in this area. This is called incident search after something happened. So this is called metadata search. Okay. If there is no metadata, the camera will tell you there is a motion. Okay, this I will go back to the training room example. Let's say something went in the missing in the training room. If there is no metadata, the camera will tell me there is motion at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, but it will not tell you where it is. If there is metadata, it will tell you at 5 o'clock uh, near the window, at 8 o'clock near the back door area. So extra information where the event occurred, you can call it as more metadata. That's not the only thing. There is metadata. Is just it can be data more also. Like if it is artificial intelligence, which we will see, shirt color, color of the object. These are all extra information. So you can say also metadata. But yeah, where the incident happened, that's your metadata. Okay, defocus is there is a chance that the camera can lose focus if from day to night time, or could be temperature, very high temperature, low temperature, or a lot of objects moved in the scene, or it could be or gradually over a period of time the sensor expand and compress, temperature. So there is could be a slight change in the focus, or maybe someone manually changed it also. It could be anything. So if it changes focus, how will the operator know something happened, right? So that's called defocus detection. The camera will alert the operator that someone changed the focus and the camera is not able to see clearly. Although camera is online, although camera is recording, everything's online, fine, but the image is not clear enough. So there's even if you do an incident search, you will probably find no detail. Okay, so that's why you have defocus detection. Next is okay, when you have defocus, it will detect and also you can tell the camera to do autofocus. So once it detects defocus, it will autofocus. That can be done. All right, so let's go to the key topic for today, artificial intelligence. Before the first break, we will do the AI, artificial intelligence. So there's a question: to get metadata, do we need to activate the event? Okay, I will speak about Hanwha camera here. If we have to get metadata, you have to tell the camera, uh, we call it IVA. You have to tell the camera, send me metadata. It's called enable IVA, intelligent video analytics. That's it. You don't have to draw any line. This is called event. You don't have to draw this events. Just say enable IVA. That's it. It will start sending the metadata. Metadata does not take a big amount of storage. It's a very, very less. It's like small kilobytes of data. So do not have to worry about this extra storage costs, when you use analytics. All right. Next is artificial intelligence. Here we go. AI. So whatever we saw today is the traditional analytics. But what are the challenges with traditional analytics? So back to the camera. How do you know? What if there is a leaf? What if there is a some? Let's say it's an outdoor scene. Maybe there is a tree moving. There's some kind of object, cat, dogs, they are moving. How do you reduce this extra alarms? You don't need alarms from cats and dogs, right? So there are options in the camera called size classification. You can say detect only if the object is above the size of a blue box. It's not this area, just the size, minimum size. If any object is bigger than the blue color box, it will create an alarm. If it is smaller than the blue color box, it will not create an alarm. Okay. So for example, right now the camera, it's detecting motion, right? If I make the size very big, so minimum size to detect is as big as a blue color box. So now the size of my hand is not good enough for the camera to trigger. This is how to reduce unnecessary alarms. So you got it. So when I go back, So uh, now it is the size is good enough for it to trigger. Okay, so right now my condition is size, all right? But in real life, there are some objects which have big size, like if there is a tree branch, if the whole branch is moving, if this whole branch is moving, it's as big as the human being. Shadow, if the shadow is moving, it's as big as a human being. So it will trigger an alarm, unnecessary false alarms. So how do you improve this? How do you fix this? This is, I mean, that's why you need different uh, technology called artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence allows a camera to think exactly like a human being. If I say camera will think it's a motion, but for you, you know it's just a moving tree. You don't care, right? Same way, if we can understand, but camera cannot. But with artificial intelligence, the cameras can behave like a human being and decide, all right, it's not really a human being. So how does the camera know? This is called deep learning. We use technologies called deep learning technology, whereby the camera is trained, just like you train your child. You train your child and say, this is a cat, this is a dog, this is football, this is a basketball, right? Now, when you train the child knows you're not the in the child. Okay, okay. Let me explain this way. All right. Uh, Here we go. Okay. Deep learning. Deep learning is in order to understand deep learning better, there is another method called machine learning using informed or basically using informed decision making. What is machine learning? Machine learning is, let's say I want to train my camera to detect a difference between cat and a dog, and I use algorithm. Let's say I am programming in the camera. If ever you find an object or an animal with a pointed ear, call it a cat. If ever you find a animal with a drooping ear, not pointed, then call it a dog. Let's say I am the programmer, I programmed my camera. So whenever I show a picture of a cat, whenever the camera sees a cat, it will check for the ear if it is pointed or not. If it is not pointed, it will say it's not a cat. If it is pointed, it will say it's a cat. If it is not pointed, it will say, all right, I detected a dog. Done. But what if the cat is folding its ears? Then again, I should go and correct the program. I have to go and fix and say, okay, look for the ear, then look for the way the cat is moving, look for the eyes, look for the skin, look for the movement. So I have to program and keep on programming every time it makes a mistake, right? So it is making informed decision. That means I am informing how to take the decision, right? Uh, However, this kind of technique, this is also artificial intelligence. If you go back to the, okay, what is artificial intelligence? It's in order to train a computer to behave like a human being, and there is the machine learning method. Okay, it also forms part of AI. Any camera using the machine learning method is also an AI camera because it falls under the umbrella of AI. But that's not good enough when you do a complex scene. What is a complex scene? A scene which looks like this. This is a complex scene. Trees, cars, people moving, walking, running. It's a complex scene. You cannot be sure how the object will look like. Maybe you will only see half the object behind the tree. Someone is hiding behind the tree. So you cannot guarantee you will see exactly how you want. You cannot program just like the way you want. It's very, very difficult. So for a CCTV, machine learning is not the great option. But for if you do factory, even before AI became, we all talk about AI, many factories they have machine learning method because it's very controlled environment. Object is broken, not broken. If broken, discard. If not broken, pack it. Small in controlled environment, it's okay. But For complex environment, it becomes difficult. So that's why deep learning came into picture, just like how we train our human child. Deep learning looks like, brain. People use this brain, neural network. They use the word neural network. Just like our brain has many neurons, we we subconsciously we make a lot of decisions to come to a conclusion, right? Example, ball, basketball. Who said it's a basketball? How do you know it's a basketball? Right? But your brain is automatically calculating, all right, does it look like a square? No. Does it look like a ball, a round sphere? Yes. Does it have red color? Yes. Does it have small spikes? Yes. Does it have black color lines? Yes. So you're making all this decision without your knowledge or subconsciously, and you come to a conclusion it's a basketball, right? Done? All right. So this is how deep learning works. Deep learning means uh, you don't train by entering the program. You just tell the camera, this is a ball, this is a cat. You showed the camera thousands of pictures of different cats in the whole world, and then the camera will learn by itself. You show the camera thousands of pictures of different cats and dogs. The camera will learn by itself. It's called deep learning. The camera will understand, all right, this is how the cat moves, this is how the cat looks, this is how the cat walks, this is the different body features of the cat. Or if it's a human being, they have two legs, feet, eyes. If from the back they look like this, from the side they look like this. So just like you train your child, this is a basketball, automatically the neurons and or the brain develops to think, okay, this is how the object is looking like for a basketball. All right, same way. Now, when you show this picture, let's say you did deep learning through the camera, and now when you show a picture of the cat, it does not matter if you fold the ear or not. It will surely tell you it's a cat. Just like here, this example. How does the camera know behind the tree that's a car? Only half the picture is available. Still, it knows because it uses deep learning. Even there is a person standing here, it can even pick it up, right? For a person, yellow color box, for a car, blue color box. So it understands because it uses deep learning. It knows how the car looks like and it tries to identify quickly. Now, how does it help? When you draw a line, you don't have to say size of the object. You only say person. That's it. Automatically, it will check if it's a person or not, then trigger an alarm. More efficient, right? So this is artificial intelligence. More and more accurate analytics can be achieved. Example, here. I have two cameras side by side. One of them is artificial intelligence. Which one is it? Okay. Left side, the robots, Hanwha robotic, yeah, assembling. There's a car seat, yeah. So this guy is picking up, let's go back. The traditional camera will pick this as a motion, whereas AI camera does not care. This robotic movement is not considered as a human being and it's not considered as a motion. Light. You see, according to the camera, this entire light is difference is considered as a big motion, but AI camera don't care. Another common thing is rain. If there is a rain is also motion, right? Some cameras will say, okay, that's motion detected, but AI camera does not matter. It will not trigger alarm. AI cameras, there is also one more nice options available. It can pick up whether the person is a male, whether it's a female, what is the shirt color, what is the back color. So you can do investigation on, on a different level. You can say I'm looking for a child. You can say I'm looking for a person with a red color shirt. and you can find that particular specific human. So here we go. I selected a camera on a specific day. I select, I'm looking for all the people that the camera saw. So it will take a snapshot of all the people. Then I am looking for specifically a person wearing red color shirt. So I say, show me person, red color shirt, and it will filter all the person with the red color shirt. So this is possible if you use AI camera, and all this extra information is your data. Red shirt, black shirt. You can search for cars, trucks. I'm looking for a yellow bus. I'm looking for a specific bike. So all that can be done with AI. There is nice videos on YouTube searching for, and by the way, this is also built in edge, on the edge. So no extra license. It just comes built in with the camera. Not all cameras have AI. It should be an AI camera. It's a special, like the series. If you remember, we talked about series. There will be AI series. So from that you can take. Hopefully in the future it will become like a commonplace for all cameras. ONVIF, ONVIF, Open Network Video Interface Forum. In fact, that name ONVIF is very common in CCTV, but the full form not really. ONVIF is similar to BACnet for BMS or fire alarm interface, uh, LON interface, KNX interface, lighting. So this is an interface, common interface for integrating with um, third-party systems. What is third-party? Anything that the vendor does not provide or supply is third-party. So if a camera has to integrate with some other existing systems from another brand, that common interface is usually ONVIF. All right. Now, ONVIF is not always the only method, but it is the most common method used in CCTV. How this came about? In the initial days when you had IP cameras, everyone had their own proprietary method of communication in terms of the camera streams being sent, configuring the cameras, and so on. So it made it difficult for a customer who purchased from vendor A. When he wants to expand, maybe he got a better price from vendor B, or maybe the vendor A is no longer available, or there is no support, he doesn't like vendor A. He cannot go to vendor B because his system is proprietary. It will not work with vendor B. So he had to discard or remove vendor A and then install fresh vendor B system. So this is a big loss for the customer. And also it gave some vendors upper hand because once they sell the system, you are stuck with them for life, right? Or for the life of their project. So that's also not a good thing. That's why there was a community of vendors uh, because of end user requests, customer requests. There was a community form called Open Network Video Interface Forum. It is actually a group of vendors. It's not a government. It's a group of vendor, like all the big key vendors. They form a group and they release a common spec, a software that will run inside the camera, right? So that common software will work with each other, making it easier. So tomorrow, if you don't like vendor A, you can still buy camera from vendor B and connect to your existing system because vendor A supports ONVIF. All right. So ONVIF has become like the de facto when it comes to open protocol in CCTV. It's a big committee. Some of the vendors, like we are one of the members, and we are also part of the technical committee responsible for writing the specification for ONVIF. All right. So this is how to understand. This is as simple as you and me. We are able to communicate with each other because of a common language that I am speaking in English. If I use my native tongue, my proprietary tongue, of course, probably may not be anybody here in the attendee. So this is how you can understand the concept of ONWIF. It's like a common language between different brands. Okay. Now, ONWIF, they have released different, you can say, profiles or sets of specs. If Okay, I wanted to explain one more thing. If ever you are a consultant, if ever you are an end user, you have to specify in the project saying my VMS, my video management system, my recording system, my CCTV system should be ONWIF compliant, right? Not only that, camera should be ONWIF compliant. Maybe tomorrow you like the camera, but you don't like the software. So you buy a new software. That time, if your camera is not on with, it will not work with the new software. So both of them, camera and the recording software, server, all of them, your entire CCTV system should be on with compliant. Okay. Next, there is different levels of compliance. The most common and most popularly accepted is on with S. Anything less, not good. Anything more, better. On with S will guarantee video. What do you need from a camera? Video. So it will guarantee video. If it is a pan tilt zoom camera, it will work as well. Some of the analytics may work, but these are all conditional and optional. But minimum you need video, and if audio is there, audio as well. Okay, so what about analytics? What about H.265? Not guaranteed when it comes to ONWIF S. That is subject to the vendor, how seriously they want to work with ONWIF and provide all the extra features. All right, so how do you make sure you get all the features that you are purchasing from a camera into your system? For example, notepad, camera, vendor A, recording software, or call it VMS, yeah, video management system, vendor B. Okay. How do you make sure all the feature that the camera A, vendor A has, analytics, how do you make sure it is supported on vendor B? In this case, you cannot only rely on ONWIF, only ONWIF not enough. You should also have driver or native integration. The word is native integration. That means imagine all of you learned my mother tongue as well as you know English, right? So that means you know two languages. Same way, a camera or a software should also speak vendor A's language. Maybe it's from Korea, maybe it's from US, maybe it's from Sweden. It could be from any European country. It or Denmark. It doesn't matter. It should speak their language as well as it should speak the common language, right? So it's not really language as language, but that program. Okay. So this is if you use ONWIF, good enough. Yes, it will work. If it supports native integration, better. You will get all the built-in features available. ONWIF, if you T complies with H.265. So if your camera and VMS is ONWIF T, that means any ONWIF T camera will also supply H.264, H.265. In 2020, due to COVID, it is slowed down, but that's when they released the latest one, ONWIF M, to do something with analytics and people, what you call counting, face recognition based, license plate recognition based analytics. So they started to enter into the analytic field as well. All right. So how do you check? You might think the ONWIF is not common. ONWIF is actually extremely common. Uh, right now, you may find more than 17,000, 17000 products listed. This is a quite old video. Probably you'll find 12,000. So this is how you check. Go to onwif.org, select. I did a blank search to show everything. Oh, this has 19,000. Okay, it's a newer video. 19,000 products listed. All right. But surprisingly, there are many brands still not listed here. There are many products not listed here. They may mention on the datasheet, but it should also be mentioned on the particular website. Okay, that's the only guarantee that it complies with ONWIF. Okay, here's some of them G. Some of them may not have H265, so not there is GST. Okay, next is ONWIF device, ONWIF client. ONWIF device means camera. ONWIF client means VMS, your recording side, head end, right? Back end, head end. That's your ONWIF client. NVRs, recorders, VMS, all this should be listed as well. Okay, next is cybersecurity. Very simple statement. Cybersecurity, back then, many of the DVRs were, that's how it started, roughly quite some time back. The hackers used DVRs to do Bitcoin mining, okay, because they wanted a hardware which will run 24 hours. It's a Bitcoin miner. It was used as a Bitcoin miner. And the DVRs were the best example. No one touched it, running 24 hours, use it for Bitcoin mining. Later on, things evolved, as you know. Uh, Bitcoin mining is just with DVR is not enough. You need more powerful processors today to do Bitcoin mining. So they started using, I mean, that's not the only reason, they started doing ransomware attacks. That means they hijack your system and ask you for money, like kidnapping, ransom, right? That's how they that's how they access, I mean, that's how they try to make money. So as long as there is an opportunity to attack your system, there is a chance it will be. Okay. And unless and until the attack has happened, the seriousness is less. And once the attack has happened, the money to fix it is much more than you can imagine. Ransomware is not going to be a few $100s. It's going to be 800, 100,000, 800,000, $1 million, depending on the sensitivity of the data. And most of the most of them clients may budge into it because their reputation is at stake. If a bank loses its data to a hacker for a ransomware and the news comes online, then most of you will take your money out from the bank, right? So there is a lot of risk. If a sensitive video is published online, there is a lot of risk. So there is a chance many of them will actually pay the money to get the system back, but that's not a right solution. So the chance, I mean, the ease with which people can attack is also very simple. The device need not be actually on the internet, right? Um, if you're part of a corporate, if you're part of a building, as long as you have access to a network in your building, you can, right? You may not be from a CCTV background, you may not be a CCTV staff or a security operator, but what if you have a discovery tool to discover and then try to access a camera and maybe misuse, right? It can happen. So the ease of access is actually possible even with online or offline devices, as in on internet or not on internet. Okay, some of the common ways of hacking is backdoor. Anything that's not a front door is backdoor. Whenever I accessed a camera, you probably remember, I used to enter username and password. That's called front door. You use lock and key to enter your house, front door. If you jump through the window or if you break open the door, it's all backdoor access, right? So that is backdoor. Next is weak password policy. Maybe the lock is not strong enough. Maybe it's just a push of a button and then someone finds it. Okay, press the button, enter the door. It's weak password. Password like 123, ABCD, admin, root 123. These are all default password. There are many vendors who employ default password, and you don't need someone to tell you the default password, you can just go ask Google default CCTV password, and you can get default list. There are 31. There are so many default camera password list, default password list. So you can get the full list of all the brands. You can get their information and you can try to log in. I have logged in myself in my previous company, and it was a CCTV for the property. Accidentally, I had access because we had some expansion. I accidentally pulled it on, I mean, put the laptop to a different switch, and I found 300 cameras, whereas in our office we installed only some 12 or 13 cameras. Then, out of curiosity to check whether they really changed the default password, I entered the default password. It was not changed. I was able to access the roof camera and so on. Then I quickly took it off. But yeah, that is surprising. The project is already 3 years old. Still, they haven't changed the default password. So that's a issue. Unused port open. Unused port, camera uses different ports to send data. Camera is like a house. There are different ways to access. If you want to access the web page, it's a different port, port 80. If you want to access the video, it will send through a different channel. It's like your road, right? If everyone goes in the same lane, that's not right. So there are different lanes for different cars. There are some lanes for trucks. Same way in the camera, there are different ports to access different function of the camera. Unused port can be referred to the windows in your house. You can have all the door locked, but if your windows are still left open, you can still expect somebody trying to sneak. Then firmware encryption. Basically, firmware will not make the file running in the camera, the firmware file. You will not, if you try to down, you can, of course, anybody can download firmware from a website, right? If you want to update a camera, like let's say you want to update your phone, you download the update and then click apply. Same way, you download the firmware file and then upload to the camera to update the camera. If I can access that firmware file using any Visual Studio, try to open the file, check where the passwords are saved, how it is saved, how it is being communicated. If it is too open for me to understand the, the structure inside the camera, the way the communication happens, there is a chance I can just try to intercept and get information. So if it is encrypted, you will have no clue how it is being programmed unless and until it is installed. Next is buffer overflow, not very relevant for us. Um, Basically, you overload by and basically if the memory gets full, the camera can perform differently. You don't really see that nowadays, but back then in the computer world, yes, if you um, inject a lot of data and then it overflows, then the camera will just open up. You will get access to other menus and systems settings and so on. All right. So backdoor, anything other than the actual door password, that's your backdoor. Okay. So in order to protect a camera, there's no one single method. It's like your house. There's not just one key to protect. There are different levels. Maybe you have a cupboard with the valuables. So you have certain different doors for different you have to lock the windows. There's a lock for the windows. So there are different levels. It's called defense in depth. A camera is now like an asset, okay? And inside the asset, there are different levels of importance. Passwords should be secured much more. It should be kept in the storage with more security. Like if you have jewels at home, you keep it safe in a locker. Same like that. In a camera also, you need to have different levels of security, and the CCTV system itself should have different levels of security. The more harder you make, the more difficult or more challenging for the hacker, and he will just move on to the next someone else, right? So that's the goal, to make it difficult. There is no proof system saying okay, it's 100% proof. That's why you will find words like hardness. You just make it hard for the hacker. The first thing is, many vendors like ourselves, we don't have a password, default password. not sec we have a password, but we don't have default password. There is no concept called 1234 ABCD. It has to be complicated. The more complicated the password is, the more difficult to hack, right? So we enforce policy like capital letter minimum one, small letter as minimum one, number minimum one, special character symbol minimum one, and minimum 8 total characters. So more harder you make it, makes it difficult for the hacker to guess the password. Then if you repeatedly enter wrong password, it will lock you out for some time to stop from repeated attacks, brute force attacks. So so you can see here, this is from online, time to crack. The more complex the password is, it takes a longer time to hack using a tool. Okay, repeat. So ours is roughly 25 years, so it is good enough if they try to hack as well. All right, next is yeah, firmware update, all this is okay. Yeah, there are different levels of security available in the camera. Uh, HTTPS, just like your secure communication, just like when you do transaction shopping, there is HTTPS, secure communication. Certificate based communication, make sure you're speaking to the right person. Uh, Example, when you buy a product, you're sending money, but what if it's going to the wrong person? You have to authenticate, like validate, right? Physically, you can see the person, but if it's virtual, you cannot. So then you have certificate based to check whether you're actually sending the data video to the right person. Then 802, it's like access control, network access control. This is typically used in banks where there is a server which issues certificates. Only devices with the certificate can access the network. Otherwise, it is considered as a foreign device and all transmission network is blocked. So this is also available in cameras. So authenticator sends authentication server receives and validates, then they can communicate to the network. Again, let's say you plug in a new device, make sure it is a valid, it has a certificate, then it can communicate with the network. All right, then there are logs in the system. In the cameras, you can find out who changed settings, who accessed, which IP address is trying to access. These kind of settings are available. You have options called IP filtering. You can deny access from certain IP addresses. You can allow access to only certain IP addresses. Then default ports. If you go to the web page, that uses port number 80, default HTTP port. So no one needs to know big mathematics to find out. If you go to Google, it will tell you what is the default web page port 80, right? So if a person knows the IP address of a camera, he can go to the web page using the port number 80. But you can make it difficult for him by editing the port number, make it 85. All right, so now he has to guess whether 80 or 90 or 95 or 800. It's unlimited, right? Like for him to virtually guess, it's going to be very difficult. So these kind of settings can be done in cameras. Now, the thing is, you don't have to do camera by camera. There are tools to do as a group. You can do it as a group. Um, then, of course, you have to keep the CCTV network separate from other network. So other operators, unnecessary people don't access um, the network. Okay, VPN, you already know. Okay, how do you make sure the cameras are secure? Many vendors have a policy called secure by default. By default, all the secure settings are enabled. That means when you buy the camera, by default, automatically many of the critical main security functions are enabled, are activated. It's called secure by default. You don't need to activate all this. It's a certification from UK. Many vendors follow this. We follow this certification. We follow the standard secure by default. Then there is a third party certification called UL CAP, Cyber Assurance Program. Not everyone have it. So this is a third party assurance where the vendor has followed strict policies in developing the camera, the way the programming is done, the way the software is managed, the way it is, the incidents are managed. So this is, they certify that, okay, of the way how the vulnerabilities are attacked. So all that is coming under UL CAP. So that is another certification. All right, let's take a break and then we'll continue the remaining topics. So Okay, let's resume. Okay, all right. Let's just review. Okay, so the about NVR and VMS, NVR and VMS. We've now shifting to the back end of CCTV system where the recorders are placed for recording purposes and managing. Now, in order to understand why you need NVR, very simple. Um, Here we go, 160. If I have a single camera, I can look at the camera, the front door. Okay, let me enter the password. I can look at the camera from the web page. If I have a SD card, I can record it. Um, I can change the settings and so on, right? One camera, very easy to manage. What if I have 10 cameras? So I will open 10 web browsers, right? So it makes things painful, difficult for the operator. So that's why you have systems like NVRs. Let me check this one. An NVR is a device which is your central point of communication to manage multiple cameras. Okay, so you can have multiple cameras. Let's see if this is online. It's offline. Sure. All right. So this is like multiple cameras. You can have here 4 by 4, 3 by 3, and manage multiple cameras from one location. Right? This is the objective of an NVR. Not only this, not only live view, not only monitoring, but also playback. You can search for the video of multiple cameras together. You can check event together. What happened in camera A? What events occurred in camera A? What happened in B? You don't need to open separate window. You can see them together in one central location. Okay. So this is the objective of NVR. It's also managing recording. It is managing the every time you enter a new camera, you don't have to enter the password of the camera every time because you just enter the password of NVR, automatically you have access to all the cameras that they NVR. It's a recording device. It's actually an appliance. Whatever the NVR can access, you cameras, you can access that. Right? Centrally monitoring the database of all the cameras, username, password, events, logs, alarms, centrally monitor them. Recording, playback, export the video, not just one camera, bulk, 4 camera, 5 camera together, 10 cameras together. That's your NVR recording management. You can do not only uh, so many things actually in the NVR. You can do recordings such as um, where's the recording? Record option. You can record each camera for a specific number of days. You can schedule recording. You can have a recording schedule. You can say record continuously at 8 o'clock, then record during motion. Sometime don't need to record. You can have different schedule. This is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday time hours. You can apply to each camera. There are 64 cameras in the NVR. You can apply each setting to each camera or all setting to all cameras. Record on motion, record only on normal recording. How do you do this? For one camera may be possible, but when you have a lot of cameras, you need to manage them together, right? That's your VMS, Video Management System. Make life easier for when you have a lot of cameras in a project. All right, the first device is your DVR, NVR. It's where you manage a group of cameras on the network in one location, right? So I have events. I can set up event rule. If camera 1, something happened, motion happened in camera 2, I want pop-up, I need email in camera 3. And so all these kind of scripting and events you can do in. You can also search if you have artificial intelligence camera, you can search for I'm looking for a male, certain color, can be done. All right. So this is the objective of an NVR, but it's all happening in one device, one box, one unit. So go back to the web page. This is the NVR model. I'm doing everything in one device. I'm doing live view. I can play back. I can export. I can do event search. I can manage everything through one device. That's your NVR, all in one appliance. Okay. If there are any further questions till this point, please let me know. Okay, next is VMS. VMS is actually an expanded version of your NVR concept. Okay, but in the general word, VMS feels like it's something else, but it's not really. What NVR does, it has a database. In a typical enterprise level system, enterprise large scale system, we we put a separate appliance for database. We buy a separate appliance for recorder. Behind the NVR, there are HDMI port, maybe one, maybe two. But what if you need to have 4 monitors? Where will you put the HDMI? Behind the NVR, there's only 2 ports. So when you want to scale on a large option, then a concept of VMS comes into picture. Okay, when you have larger projects, you split the database, buy a server, put all the database in one, buy a server, put more cameras to record, buy separate client PC, buy Xeon PC or buy with i7, 16 GB RAM, put some graphics card, connect 4 monitors. So if you want to do that level, you can go to the VMS option. Second reason, what if you have more than one NVR? I have one NVR, all right. I am able to look at all the camera from the web. It's okay. Maybe I can connect a monitor behind the NVR. I can see the camera, but how many cameras can I see at a time from that? It is a 64 channel NVR, so I can see only 64. What if you have 5 NVRs, 300 cameras? How will you see them together? Maybe you want to see 5 camera from NVR1, 3 camera from NVR2 in one location. That's why you need a VMS. So right now what you're looking at, this is a VMS, SSM VMS. In the SSM VMS, you can, okay, any VMS generally, all right, a VMS, you can have multiple NVR. So I have here many NVR, XR and PRN. I can add all the NVR as a device. And whatever cameras are under that NVR will also be listed here. So we'll wait for it to finish. Oh, this is on a different network. It will not add. Okay, cancel. Okay, close. So cameras under the NVR will also get added. Then what's the benefit? Monitoring. I don't have to have separate monitors for each NVR. I can pull out a 5 by 5 view. I can ask all the cameras to be displayed here. And I can have some cameras from another NVR. Let's 1 second. So this NVR is out. Let me take some from here. Then I can take some from here. So I am able to see cameras from different NVRs in one monitor. Got it? So this is the objective of your VMS application. You can have larger layouts, 121, you can have 132. Definitely not used in real time unless you have very big monitor. Most commonly 5 by 5, 6 by 6 is used. You can play back if all of them are recording continuously. You can play back all the camera together, right? If they are not recording, it's okay. They will not have video. So you can play back all the camera together from a specific timeline. 5 o'clock, show me video from all the camera. Maybe it's on NVR1, some on NVR2. You can play back together. So this is the objective of an enterprise level VMS. And some of them are licensed. They don't charge. Some of them charge. So it depends on vendor to vendor. For us, it depends. If you don't have, if you have our NVR, our recorders, we don't. So it's built-in licensed. So you don't have to pay extra. So this is your objective of your VMS. Not only this, you can relate one camera to another camera. For example, if NVR1, NVR1 failed, maybe something happened. I want to take some action. You can do that. Or if NVR1, camera 1 has a motion detection, I can take a pop-up from some other camera, or I can say camera from NVR2, PTZ, go to certain location. So I can relate alarms from NVR1 to NVR2. I can do map. I can upload maps. I can draw icons. I can map cameras. I can create layouts. I can create groups. What is group? Group means you can group camera by floor. You can say, I mean, let's say floor 2, all the cameras in NVR 1. Then floor 18, you can have some cameras from NVR 2 belongs to floor 18. You can do that, and you can create another floor for the remaining cameras. So when you monitor, you are not looking for NVR, you are just going to see by floor. So for the operator, it's much more easier to manage the site. So you got the idea. It's all about managing, making life easier, and centrally viewing all the events. Okay, then if you have multiple monitors, you can create one more tab. And you can drag and drop to another monitor. And in this monitor, let's say I want to pull out layout 1. I saved already. What is layout 1? It is a group of 4 cameras. Then layout 2, it is a group of 2 cameras. Layout 3, it's a group of just 1 camera. So this is pre-memorized layouts. You can share the layout with other user. You can have your own private layouts. You can do sequencing. Sequencing is a feature where you can change the, let's say you have only one monitor, you want to see all 100 cameras. You can say, okay, show every 10 seconds, show me the next cameras. So wait for 10 seconds and then it will go to the next camera, right? So you will keep looking at different batches of cameras. So this is called sequencing or touring. Okay. Then there are options to speak to the camera. You can listen to audio from the camera. You can upload audio, broadcast the audio if you connect speaker to the camera. You can look at events. On the right side, all the events will be received. Motion detected, motion detection. Someone came in, so motion was detected, so this person walked in. Events can be seen real time. You can prioritize and say, show me only high priority alarms. So you can create priorities here, management, motion detection, which one is high priority, video loss, very high priority. So the goal is again to make operational purposes as per the project requirement and manage them. Again, once I log into the VMS, I have access to all the NVR, right? All the cameras, everything together. Okay, you can also have customized option like alarm monitor. This monitor is only for alarms. If there is motion, then there is alarm. Otherwise, there is no need to display any cameras. So if there is an event, it will show here. It will pop up. Otherwise, it will just be quiet. Okay, so that is the objective of this called alarm window. So you will not unnecessarily take the attention of the operator. Only if there is an incident, it will show up here. Okay, so this is alarm monitor. It's called event. The word is event spot monitor. If there is an incident, it will pop up immediately. So yeah, so there is someone walking in, good timing. So three cameras are looking at that door, and um, it has detected motion and automatically it popped up. So now you are aware, all right, something happened. Then automatically it will go back. It will remove the video. It's actually up to you. You can say keep it continuously or remove after 30 seconds and all that. You can also have pop-up. You can say I need a pop-up, how many pop-ups. You can have language display. Depending on your region, you can choose language. Arabic is here, other languages. So these are the options that is available. Then dashboard. You get a quick look at how many cameras are offline, how many are online, how many NVRs are online, under NVR, which camera is offline. So you get additional details like this. Without taking any report, you have a quick look of what's happening every day. All right, everything's okay, not okay. You can have a look. You can see events together. Show me all the events from all the camera. You can filter out event type. Show me all the offline events. Search for person. I'm looking for a person from this camera. Show me all. So it detected some guys. So like that, you can do search. When did it see this person? So you can play the video. So you got the idea, right? From 1 o'clock in less than, yeah. So this is the idea behind this VMS. Not only this, you can also integrate to third-party systems. If you have access control, let's say I have an access control device, I can integrate to access control device. I can do a map. I can have a map and I can link to another map, can link to another map, and you can have a door, you can have a camera. So all that can be done. Integrate with third-party system, BMS, UPS, CCTV, intercom, access control. So this is the objective of VMS, to expand your system and manage them together centrally. All right. And generally, VMSs have higher specified servers like Xeon processors, so they can handle more cameras. The operator client means the operator looking at the video in the control room. They will be on a separate PC, so they can have more monitors connected. So this processor is not overloaded, the recording processor. So this is how this is the idea behind a VMS. But functionally, both are same. It's on a larger scale, on a smaller scale. NVR is on a small scale. Why NVRs are used? This is a picture of one of the NVR. Behind the NVR, there's a video output, network port, fans, power supplies. This is like a recording device as well as it's a monitoring device. Why NVR is still used? Very affordable, like no license, built-in, 64 channel, any camera, third-party camera, Hanwha camera can connect. Uh, no Windows license and all that. That's the idea behind NVR, right? Then storage, there are different types of storage. We are not going to do master's degree in SAN NAS. We are only going to understand the difference between DAS, NAS, SAN. DAS, direct attached storage. In an NVR, inside the NVR, you connect the hard disk. Your laptop, by the way, very simple example. In your laptop, there is a hard disk, right? That is direct attached storage. It is directly attached to your system. Network attached storage. The let's say from your laptop, you have a cloud storage. Let's say WD cloud. Some of you might have cloud storage in your house to remotely store the photos, right? That's basically storage on the network. It uses a different file format, network format, to store the video. NAS storage, right? It's connected over the network. Physically not connected, but it's like on the interface is different. So basically over the network port, you are communicating and transferring that data, right? So that is network storage. Okay. Now then came SAN. SAN is over the network, but it tries to uh, simulate just like DAS. How to understand this? When you transfer files inside your laptop from one folder to another folder, it's quite fast. But when you try to upload it over the network, it's slow, right? It takes time. It transfers in Mbps. Even when you transfer to an USB, it's a little bit slower. This is something that is a side effect of NAS storage. However, to compensate, however, let's say an NVR device, let me open one to explain. Okay, let me check if I have PRN. Let's say I'm looking at an NVR. We'll take this. Okay, let me take this one. Storage, 10 terabyte per hard disk, 16 hard disk, maximum 160. What if you need more than 160 terabyte? So directly on the NVR or the recorder, you can connect around 16 hard disk. But if you need more than that, when you have projects with thousands and 2000s of cameras, the built-in storage, which is your DAS, and may not be sufficient. Maybe you have one server with 300 cameras, but you are recording for 90 days or 180 days. Sometimes in Abu Dhabi, you're recording 180 days as per law. In Kuwait, of 90 days, I believe. In Qatar, 120 days. So if you're recording a lot, the built-in storage may not be enough, right? Then you have to have a storage outside that device, okay, on the network, but you still have to have the same transfer speed. You still have to have the same level of performance just like you have on a DAS. All right. So in order to achieve that, SAN storage area network, the storage is connected using fiber channels for more faster communication. And it's group of hard disks, like bulk of storage connected and attached to different servers. So maybe you'll buy 100 tera or one or 500 terabyte of SAN storage and distribute 100 terabyte to each group of servers. All right, and it will look like a local drive as if it is directly attached. Right, C drive, D drive. It will be mapped as if it's directly attached. So that is SAN. Slightly expensive, but sometimes you need it. All right, and your projects are large. When your built-in storage is not capable, it's not enough. You need when you have thousands of cameras. Um, Instead of managing each NVR recorder separately, you can centralize your storage on one location. Imagine this, all right? Let's say public surveillance, your government, they have so many cameras, but they will not carry DVRs, right? They will have central storage. They will have a central data center with all the recording, all right? They will have recording, VMS. It will only take the video footage and map it to a central recorder or a central SAN storage. So the okay, when you have a central location with SAN storage, it makes it easier for you to manage. If some hard disk failed, you can just go to one location and change. You don't have to find out which NVR failed, which DVR, which hard disk in the NVR recorder failed. You don't have to do that. So when you have large project, large number of days, when DAS is not sufficient, you can go to SAN, right? Anywhere in between, you may look at NAS as well as an option. So work with the customer, installer, integrator to provide you the right choice for your project. All right, so in today's networking scope of study, we will see the remaining tools, TraceCert and Wireshark. After that, we will look into layer 1, layer 2, the definition and its mean. All right, so the next tool in networking is TraceCert. Basically, you can trace how the packet travels in your network. In your CCTV network, you have camera, you have recorder. Then in between, there are some devices which you may not be aware of, that is the switches and routers. Sometimes when the packet is received from the camera to the recorder, maybe it is not uh, received. We don't know where it stopped receiving. Or perhaps you are trying, or a computer is trying to connect to a camera. For some reason, you are not able to reach the camera. So you want to know where it got lost, right? So for example, if you lost your destination somewhere and you call someone, what do you say? You will tell, right now I am here. So from that location, you can troubleshoot and he will tell you where to go further. Same way, TraceCert allows you to figure out where the packet lost its way. So if I were to trace myself, my computer from my laptop, let's say, if I trace to a device which is in the same network, let's say that means it's in my next to me, for example. So I have a camera next to me. So if I trace, it is in the same location. So it would pick up and say there is nothing much. It will directly say um, where the device is. Oops. Okay, I put the wrong IP. Let's one put the right one, 160. Right, so the device is right in my office, and you will see there are three packets that were sent, and it took less than 3 milliseconds. So one of them took 4 milliseconds. Now, if I were to communicate with a device outside my network, so it has to go through my router and then to another router and then so on to reach a device somewhere else. Let's say I want to connect to a Google server, which is not in my office, of course. So if I try to connect to a Google server, you will see that first thing that it does, it gives you the IP address of your router because it's not in your local location. It's not in your office. The Google server is not in office. So it has to go out of the door, that is your router, and from there it tries to figure out basically your packet is left through the router and then it is finding its way to Google server. So every time it is being uh, every time you see an IP address here, these are all routers, how the packets are getting routed to another network, and from there it goes to another network. So this is the path the packet is taking. And in the end, the last IP address would be your Google server IP address. So we'll wait for it to complete. So once it completes, it will look like this at the top. I have already done once. So you will see 142251. Let me stop this. 142. So I try to trace google.com. So it goes to 142.251.226.139. So I go to IP website, IP info to find out what IP address this is. So I can see, okay, let's take the second one, 142.251.42.206. 142.251.41.206. 42. So it belongs to Google. So the final destination, it has reached Google. All right. So in case a packet drops somewhere, you know where it stopped. So this is one way to find out where the packet lost its way. Okay. Now in this process, you're also getting your router IP addresses, right? It reveals the router IP addresses because that's the one routing the packet to a different network across multiple networks actually till it reaches the destination. Okay, next is Wireshark. What is the purpose of Wireshark? So we will see it's a tool free to download, and with this tool you can also find out whether the you can find out the communication between the camera and the devices, and you can see in real time what's the communication that's happening. So let me open a demo. So here, after opening up Wireshark, there is an option where I can enter here IP source, for example, 192.168.1.20 and IP destination 192.168.1.151. My camera is 151 and my PC, or let's say my recording server, is 1.20. If I want to figure out if the communication between the camera and the recorder is everything is okay or not, this is one way to check. So I have entered this, and once I enter, I can see the packet uh, between these two devices. Now I'm going to enter one more camera, let's say 1.60. Okay, now you will see the communication starts to happen. TCP protocol, RTSP is your streaming protocol, so you can find out the transaction between the two devices. Okay. All right. So next is we will just go through the next topics, that is layer 1, layer 2, and understand again the foundations of network in CCTV. In CCTV, um, a network is required because two or more camera devices have to communicate with the recorder, with the computer monitoring stations, and probably to external remote monitoring stations. So that's your network. They have to be networked together. Okay. Now, how they communicate between and what contribute, I mean, how the network is constructed, the medium can be different. Can be wireless, can be over Cat6 Ethernet cable, or it can be over fiber, um, or using any other type of media transmission. Okay. Now, before we go, I want to take a step back and explain to you, whenever you have a new camera, what are the process that is done generally, okay, based on what we have learned so far. Whenever we have a new camera in the site, by default, it can take two options for IP address, and it depends on the vendor. If you go and type in Google what is the default IP address of Hanwha camera, it is 1.100. So whenever you connect a new device in your network, automatically the camera will take a default IP 1.100. And there is one more option. If there is a DHCP server, it will take the IP from a DHCP server. What is a DHCP server? A DHCP server is a device or a processor or a service, sorry, not a processor. It's a service running on the switch, or it can be on the NVR, or it can be a software. Basically, it's a service that assigns automatically IP addresses. Okay, whenever a new device is connected. Okay, how to understand DHCP? Whenever you connect to internet from your laptop to the wireless, you never configure what is your IP. Automatically, it gets assigned to you by your wireless router. Even at home, when you connect Wi-Fi for the first time, you never set up the IP address in your mobile phone, or when a guest comes in, you don't do that. When you go to a mall, you don't configure IP address and stuff. So that is DHCP server. It is providing you with an IP address. If there is such a service running in the CCTV, in fact, NVR has the capability to provide DHCP servers. VMS is having the capability, or you can download a DHCP service application and run on a Windows server. Even Windows Server comes with built-in DHCP service option. So they will provide IP address to any new network device. If such a service is not there, then the camera will take its own default IP, IP address. Every vendor can have their own default IP. Some of them can have 0.100, some can 1.100, and so on. For us, for Hanwha example is 1.100. So here I have a particular camera which has been reset, and the default IP is 1.100. So how do I go about changing or fixing an IP address? Because uh, you project will have IP address schedule. You have to follow that. The IP scheme by the network administrator. He will tell you you can use these available IP addresses, and that's what you will have to use. So I am using a tool here called Device Manager, Wisenet Device Manager, which discovers all the cameras in the network. Using that, I've figured out all the cameras in my network. I can show that later on. But right now, let's focus on a brand new camera. The first thing is when you open a brand new camera, there is no password. That is another thing. It depends again. Many vendors, as we saw, may or may not have a default password. Some of them may have default password as admin, root. So you can see here, um, different brands have different default username and password. But in Hanwha, and there are some other brands, they don't have a default password, so you have to create it. Only after you create the initial default username password, you can go ahead and do additional settings such as IP address change, any other camera resolution change, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to create first the password. After that, I will go about fixing my IP address. Let's go apply, login, setup, camera setup. Always when you log into the camera web page, you go to the setup and look for either under system or network, or you'll find it under basic. So usually these are the headlines for the menu. You'll find the IP setting. So my camera currently is 1.100. I will go ahead and change it to 32, 1.32. And subnet mask is same. I I will use the 1.1 as gateway. DNS, we will leave that for now, and that's it. So my IP address is fixed. Okay, this is one. Second is, let's finish this. Now, if I go to the new IP address, I can log in and I'm back to the same camera. Now, 32, how did I know that 32 was free? Let's say I have another camera and this particular camera is on DHCP. It's a brand new camera, uh, but it has taken an IP address from some NVR or a VMS device, or maybe the switch. So it has taken an IP address, and that IP is 1.105. Okay, so I'm going to go to this camera and change it to my CCTV range. All the training cameras are from 30 to 50 IP range, 1.30 to 1.50 range. So let's see um, how I change this one. All right, now in this example, let's say you don't have an IP address provided to you. No administrator tells you you have to use this specific IP. In that case, how will you decide? So let's go to IP. Right now it is on DHCP. DHCP means it will take an IP address by itself. You don't have to interfere. I need to change that to manual or static. Another word for manual is static. Okay, then I need within 30 to 50 range. So what I'll choose is I will ping 192.168 or 1.34, let's say. Oh, I'm getting a response. So that means there is a device already. So next, let me try 33. There is no response. So that means 33 is empty and I can use it. Right? So here we go. I will take 33 and everything else will keep the same. Gateway, I'll keep it as 1 and done. So my camera IP address is now changed. When I search here, it is already changed to 33. Okay, so it has been updated. This tool, every vendor will have a tool like this. It's called a device manager tool, where you can change the IP addresses for cameras all at once, or you can change the password all at once. You can change all camera password for all of them at the same time. You can also assign IP address. You can say start from 32 and so on. So each camera will take 32, 33, 34, whatever cameras you have in your list. So while we are at this, so I covered that as well. Okay. Other common terms used in CCTV is multicast and unicast. You would find this quite often in many VMS related applications. Okay, so First, let's understand what's the difference. Unicast means every time there is a request for a video from a camera, it has to prepare that stream and send it. So here in the first example, there are three devices, three recorders looking for video from the first device, from the camera. Let's say this is the unicast source, the camera. Every time these three devices are asking for video, it has to prepare it. It has to stream three times. So more load on the camera. Okay, maybe it's the same resolution, same frame rate, still it has to prepare it three times. However, in multicast method, the camera just sends once and the switch will duplicate, will multicast it and send it to three devices. So the load is on the switch and not on the camera anymore. Why does it matter? Because camera is an edge device. It's a small field device. There is a certain you can say a benchmark to how much it can stream. Some of them can give 6 streams, some of them 10 streams, some of them 20 streams. Some low cost brands may give only 2 streams. So if you ask for third stream, they will say not available, video is not available. So in those situations, multicast works best. Okay. Next is how does it work on CCTV? See, in CCTV, you have, let's say, a camera connected to an NVR, IP camera connected to NVR. But there are, let's say, there are 10 operators. So all of them want to see the same camera. So how will they see? In that case, from the NVR or from the VMS, it will act like a multicast server and send the live video to the 10 operators. So the multicast again occurs at the NVR side. So if I have 10 clients looking for a video from the camera is not going to send. It is the VMS that will multicast that video and send it to the 10 clients. All right. So this is how multicast works. So almost every CCTV project, there is some uh, design architecture which depends on these two words, multicast or unicast. There are many projects which are mandatory multicast. Sorry, there are many brands which work only on multicast. There are brands which work only on unicast. Next is port forwarding. In order to understand port forwarding, which you hear about it whenever a customer wants to see the CCTV system over the internet on his mobile phone or on a remote location. That's when port forwarding is heard of. Now, before we understand port forwarding, first let's get an idea of what is port. Whenever there are devices communicating in a network, a computer speaking with another computer, or I am displaying information, transmitting information from my PC, video, audio to you um, over the network, the type of data gets takes their own path. In order to understand this, let's say in a highway, in a traffic highway, you have a truck lane, you have car lane, you have speed lane, and so on. Same way, the network communication, the video data will take a specific path, the audio data will take a specific path, and the web page, web browsers, opening a web browser for certain applications will have a certain path or a port. So port number 80, if I communicate with a specific IP address and it's port 80, it will go to the web page of that port. If I communicate to RTSP port, which is 554, I can get access to the video transmission of that port. Every camera, there is a web page, and every camera streams video. So you have both. For example, 192.168 or 1.160 is a camera. If I go to port 80, it basically goes to the web page of that particular camera. Okay, so this is port. But when we type 192.168 or 1.60, I don't really type 80 because by default it is port 80. If I change it, then I need to be very specific. For example, let's say this camera, uh, network ports, port 80. So let's say I make it 81. Oh, okay, 1025. And I go back to 192.168.1.160, I cannot access because there's no it is trying to access through port 80. There's no web page there because I changed it. However, if I put 1025, then it goes to the web page. All right, so you got the idea. Same way, there is a default port, and the ports also can be customized, and the data is sent through specific ports. I will just change it back. Okay, now port forwarding. In order to understand why we need port forwarding, first let's say my office is connected to the internet. Right, so my internet service provider will give me an IP address. So in order to understand what is my IP address, I can go and type on Google and find out what's my IP. So here, when I type, it tells me my IP is so on, 94.56.10 something. Okay. Now, if you try to reach me on this IP address, okay, right? If you try to reach me on this IP address, uh, you will reach our office, but in the office, there are so many devices. For example, my computer. You have my training systems. You have my staffs, our colleagues. Everyone are connected to the internet. So when you reach that IP, then you don't know which particular device you have to reach, right? So uh, it's like you have entered the door, but once you reach the office, there are different departments. So each department, let's say training department, there is a specific door for it, right? So that is a port. So you have to say whenever I try to reach from internet, let's say 10.10.1.5, and I say door 8080 or port 8080, then that port 8080 should be redirected. Whenever there is a communication request for a specific door number or a port number, it should go to 192.168. 192 is what your local IP address. Let's say my laptop IP address. So it should go to 192.166.1.50, then port 8080. If it is a web page of a camera, it should be port 80. So this is port forwarding. So let's say I have camera one, two, three, four, five cameras, right? When I reach from online, from the internet, let's say, sorry, when I reach from online, uh, 10.10.1.5, and when I say port 80, it should go to camera 1, which is 192.168.1.50, 150, okay, port 80. So this is called port forwarding. Next, if if I say port number 81, so from outside, if try to reach port number 81, it should go to camera 2, which is IP address 51 and port number 80. So you got the idea. So from outside, you're reaching a specific door, and that should be redirected, forwarded to uh, the local camera. It's like a receptionist. She will guide you to the correct department. So once you reach the office, you say, I want to go to the training department, and they will forward you there. They will send you there. Same way, the router is the one doing this job and forwarding your request to the concerned camera. All right. So you don't need five separate IP address from your internet provider. You just need one, and you forward. There are 60,000 ports and more. You forward each port to each device. Okay, so that is one way. It is okay to buy separate IP address for each. That will be much expensive. But in a CCTV system, you have 20 cameras. You will not spend 20 IP. You will not invest in 20 internet connections. You would just buy one internet connection and route the ports accordingly to each camera or to the recorder You try to connect to the recorder and access a camera from the recorder and so on. So you got the idea. Why it is written editable? Because these are default ports. So if I know your IP address, I can directly try to go to port 80 and I can guess and say, okay, it should go to the web page. So I can take a guess and reach your CCTV system's web page of camera or Nvr. But if you change it, I will not know. Maybe it can be 1025, 1026, 27. I don't know. I cannot guess, right? So the default port is, in terms of cybersecurity, there is a chance that people can guess and get try to access. And of course, there are other password protection and so on. But to make it even more complicated or difficult for the hacker to attack, people edit the port numbers so they cannot guess as 80. Okay, next is DNS. DNS, Domain Name System. It's a friendly, meaningful name. It's called domain. Whenever you go to a specific IP address, let's say google.com or samsungcctv.com, the actual IP address is 211.101 and so on. But we never type the actual IP. We only type samsungcctv.com. So someone else in the behind the scenes is converting your URL, which is samsungcctv.com, to their correct IP address. So it will reach that server, right? When I go to google.com, I never type the IP address. I only type google.com, but it's actually translating that into its Google's IP address. So that guy who's translating it and forwarding your request, that is called DNS server. All right. Whenever we try to enter the IP address in a camera box, camera settings, or even in your laptop, when you try to enter an IP address, it will ask you who's your DNS server. Most of the time, we leave it blank because your internet provider itself is your DNS server. They will do this service for you. They will translate your google.com to the correct IP address and send it. Okay. Now, in the CCTV, how is this relevant? Okay. Let's say in CCTV, you have let's say you own a shop number one. In shop number one, you have some cameras, you have an Nvr, and you want to connect over the internet. Okay. All right. Now every time you don't have to type the IP address of your shop and then the camera port number. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is register with a DNS service provider. Okay. So all right, okay. Why do we need a DNS service provider? Firstly, we saw DNS, then there is something called dynamic DNS. Dynamic DNS, the reason is where our internet connection, the service provider keeps changing our IP address. Today, today you might say my NVR IP, for example here, today my NVR IP is 10.10.1.5. Tomorrow, your internet service provider will change it because maybe you disconnect and connect again, or every 2 3 days they will change your IP address. That is how they work. So this is normal. So that is called dynamic IP. They keep on changing your IP address. So it's a big headache for you. So you don't know what is your IP address after 5 days. You will have no idea. You cannot guess because the internet provider will keep changing, and whatever is available in their pool, they will of IP address, they will take one and give you. So because it keeps on changing, dynamic DNS. Okay, so there is a service called dynamic DNS, which means there is a let's say there is a DNS provider. Like for example, here, what we do is, let's say the shop owner, he will take his CCTV system and register it to a DDNS service provider. What is the job of DDNS service provider? They will keep track of your IP address. Every time it changes, they will update their table. They will update their records. Okay, today your IP address is 10.10.1.5, tomorrow it is 10.10.1.20. They'll keep changing. So what you would do is you will only approach the DNS server and say, show me ddns-unversecurity.com, show me my camera. But that DDNS server will keep a track of your latest IP address and it will automatically connect you to that IP address. All right, so this is called DDNS service. So most of them vendors like us and some other vendors, they have their own DDNS service provision. There is also paid service from third party. Maybe it's not in CCTV. Maybe some other brands, some other systems, they want such a service, they can buy from outside. All right. So this is DDNS. Okay. This is quite common in CCTV whenever you have to a request from customer to monitor your shops. What you would do is you will register that particular shop CCTV system on the DDNS service provider and say my unique ID for my CCTV system is camera one shop one something, and that's it. So it will keep our service DDNS service will keep a track of your IP address. Every time it changes, we will keep updating. So how will you reach? So let's say you are the guy somewhere in Dubai, your shop is in Abu Dhabi. You will type ddns-unvar-security.com slash my camera one shop one. Then automatically that service provider will say, okay, you want this camera, you can go to IP address 10.10.1. Today it is 20 slash port, I mean colon port number 80 or something. So it will route it accordingly. Okay. So that's the job of DDNS. The latest one. All right. So in this drawing, what you see is another way of accessing your CCTV system over the internet. Okay. Here I have a mobile phone, and I'm trying to reach my CCTV system, which is my NVR. All right. Instead of the traditional method of port forwarding and DDNS, there is another method which is the most recent method, P2P. P2P is another server somewhere on the internet, right? It will assign a unique ID for your device. Okay, just like when you register for a Gmail address, each of you have a unique Gmail address. Same way, each of the device will have a unique ID, and when you try to reach the unique ID via the P2P server, you will get access to the device. Of course, once you access, it will ask you for username and password of the NVR or camera. Okay. Now this unique ID is issued by the P2P server, and that ID is pasted on the NVR. Okay. And it is not pasted plainly, it will be pasted as a QR code. So you can see in this video um, how the access is done. So I have here a mobile application, Wisenet mobile app, and I'm going to scan via QR code to the NVR. So click on QR code. On the NVR, there is a QR code. Okay, it will have a unique ID. So let's see again, just a second. Okay, here it is. The QR code. Once you scan it, it has a unique ID. Then it will ask you for username and password of the NVR. Enter them, and then you will register your device over the internet. That's it. So this is very popular because it's very easy to configure and less knowledge of the port forwarding is required. You don't need to have access to the router to do all that, and you don't have to have DDNS doing any monitoring. All that settings is not required. So it's quite straightforward. However, there is a catch. This is not really very secure. So by default, the devices have P2P disabled. You may have to enable it for accessing that device over P2P. Next is about the layers in a CCTV network. This word you will hear often whenever you are involved in design or estimation. We will study these topics in the next class, and uh, if you have any further questions, you can post in the chat window. Otherwise, for the day, the session is completed. Thank you for attending day 3.